Hello and welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking onto this video. This is going to be a 15-minute follow-along stretch routine to help with your squat depth. So we're going to look at hip mobility and ankle mobility. Whether you're a CrossFitter or powerlifter, weightlifter, day-to-day athlete, or just someone with tight hips, these stretches and this routine will improve your hip mobility and squat depth. The first thing we are going to do is test your current squat depth. So we're going to test your current hip and ankle mobility. So grab your stopwatch. We're going to do a 20-second squat hold, dead simple, okay? Just get a feel for your current level of depth, and then we will improve that going forward over the next 15 minutes. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. Get into the best squat you've currently got. I'm feeling a little bit tight today, I have to admit. Okay, so I'm going to do a voiceover for this stretch routine just because on the day of filming it was absolutely chucking it down, so you might not be able to hear me that well. We're going to start off with some hip swivels. So sit on your bum, put your feet wider than your hips, support your weight with your hands, lift your chest up so you've got good posture, and then you're going to rotate your knees from side to side. So you're trying to get a stretch in the lateral hip or deep in the hip capsule. So right now it's my left hip, and then when I rotate to the other side it's going to be the right hip. Try and keep your bum in one place, but you might find you end up fidgeting around a bit, so just readjust if you need to, just like I did there. And again, try and drive those knees into the floor and get a stretch. It's like a dull stretch on the lateral side of your hip. You should feel it quite deep in the hip. Once you've done 10 of these, we're going to go into our first position, which is the 90-90 pose. There's a lot of stretches and exercises we can do from the 90-90 position. It's a really, really good one to get to grips with. So here we go, 90-90, and we're going to start off by leaning over the right leg. The reason it's called 90-90 is because you've got 90-degree angles going on at the joints in the lower body, the ankles, the knees and the hips. What I want you to do is aim your chest towards your right knee, maintain good posture so you're keeping your back straight, and then start to hinge at the hips and get a stretch in your right bum cheek. Make sure you don't slump over your thigh, you won't get the same level of stretch. We're going to do some P&F stretching, which is an advanced form of stretching. It's where you contract a muscle and then relax it. It allows you to go a bit deeper into each stretch. So in a second, when I put my left hand on my right thigh, you are going to squeeze, here we go, squeeze your right glute, push your shin into the floor for about 5 seconds, and then you're going to relax and you're going to hinge forward a bit more and get a slightly deeper stretch. So a length forward there, about an inch or two, and you're going to do that 2 more times, okay? So I'm not actually pushing my hand down on my thigh, I'm using my glute to push my shin into the floor, okay? So I'm engaging the glute for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to take it off and you're going to relax. The only reason I'm putting the hand on the thigh is just to signify when I was doing the contraction versus the relaxation, just to make this voiceover a bit easier. So we're going to do 1 more rep, squeeze that glute, push that shin into the floor, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then try and hinge a bit further forward and get into a slightly deeper stretch. So after we've done 3 reps, you're going to turn your torso towards your left leg and you're going to aim your chest towards your left knee, and we're going to go into internal rotation on the left hip now. So hands behind you, lift your chest up and aim your chest towards your left knee. Make sure you're driving your left knee down in towards the floor and you're getting a stretch in the left side of the hip. It should be quite a deep stretch, similar to the one you felt on the hip swivels. So we're just trying to go into our end range internal rotation. After this, we're going to do some lift off. So we're going to do some reps, okay? So you're going to turn your torso towards your right thigh again and you're going to lift your foot up in the air. So it's quite a tricky one and you might get cramp in the left hip. If you do, just try and push through it. The best way to get rid of cramp is just to keep contracting the muscle or contract a bit harder. So you can lift your foot off for roughly 5 seconds, put it down for a couple of seconds, and you're going to do 5 reps worth of this, okay? So we're strengthening that internal rotation in the left hip. After we've done 5 reps of this, we're going to go to the other side and repeat the process. This is quite a tricky exercise if you've not done it before. Don't worry if you can't get your foot off the floor, just try and get the sensation of lifting your foot off the floor. Just squeeze those muscles as hard as you can, and obviously with more reps and sets, eventually over time you'll be able to lift that foot in the air. If you get cramp, then try and push through it. Honestly, one of the best ways to get rid of cramp is just contract those muscles harder. If you can't get your foot off the floor, then obviously you've discovered a weak area that you need to strengthen, which is great. So we're going to repeat this sequence just to the opposite side now. So we're going to go into external rotation on the left hip and internal rotation on the right hip. So you're trying to get a stretch in your left glute this time, and you're going to do exactly the same sequence. So we're going to hold this stretch for roughly 20 seconds, and then we're going to squeeze the left glute for 5, relax, stretch a bit further for 10, so on. So same again, when I put my right hand on my left thigh, I'm going to squeeze the glute for 5 seconds, and then I'm going to take it off, and then I'm going to relax and try and get a little bit deeper into the stretch. So here we go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to hinge forward and try and get a little bit of a deeper stretch for roughly 10 seconds. Again, the only reason I'm putting my hand there is just to signify when I was doing the contraction versus the relaxation. You're not pushing down on your thigh, you're engaging your left glute, push your left shin into the floor, squeeze and then relax. And each time you should get a little bit deeper into each stretch. So after you've done 3 reps, turn your torso towards your right thigh, pop your hands behind you, lift your chest up and then push your torso towards that right knee. Make sure the knees stay down the whole time, they stay in contact with the floor. The same applies to the other side. So even though we're working on the right hip, make sure that left knee is staying down on the floor. And we're trying to push into our end range internal rotation in the right hip. Once you've done this for roughly 20 seconds, you're going to turn your torso towards your left knee and do those horrible lift-offs again. Okay, so here we go again, 5 lots of 5 seconds on these lift-offs, and then we're going to do some more hip swivels and move on to the adductors. Okay, and we're going to do 10 hip swivels, 5 to each side. Just go nice and slow, try and push the knees down into the floor and get a good stretch on the side of the hip. If you want a slightly deeper stretch, then push yourself towards your thighs, okay? So just like I am doing there, push your upper body towards your thighs and give yourself a little bit of a deeper stretch. So after 10 hip swivels, we're going to retest again. So get yourself into a deep bodyweight squat, or the deepest you can get. Hold it there for roughly 20 seconds. Make sure your feet are in exactly the same position as the first test to make it fair and accurate. So after the retest, we're going to stretch the inside of the thighs, the adductors, with the frog stretch, or a slightly easier version of it. So you're going to come onto the knees, you're going to split the knees apart, get the feet together, go onto the elbows, and then sit back, and you should be getting a stretch on the inside of the thighs. If you want to make this a tougher stretch or do the traditional frog stretch, you're going to split the feet apart and get them in line with the knees. If you're not feeling the stretch, try getting your knees a little bit wider or getting your feet a little bit wider, and you should be able to feel it on the inside of the hips. The reason I'm doing the easier version with the feet close together is just because I've got tight adductors. If you want to make this a little bit dynamic, you can sort of rock back and forth slowly. Each time you sit back, try and get a little bit deeper into the stretch. Make sure you exhale as you sit back and then inhale as you go forward. And we're just going to hold this one, do nothing else, just holding it, nice passive stretch on the hips. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the frog stretch now, so hopefully you're a bit deeper into this. You've sat back a bit further, widen the knees a bit or widen the feet a bit, or done all three. Next, we're going to lay it on our back and go into hip flexion. So we're going to lay it on our back, you're going to bring your knee into your chest and you're going to hug your knee in tight and try and get into some deep hip flexion. We're going to do a different style of stretching now called RAILs, which stands for Regressive Angular Isometric Loading. Sounds fancy. Basically, all you're going to do is you're going to contract your hip flexor, so the muscle that's being shortened, to pull you deeper into the stretch. stretch, and then you're going to relax again. So it's a bit like P&F we did before, except we are going to contract the muscle that's being shortened rather than the muscle that's being lengthened. So all you're going to do is bring your knee in towards your chest, push your knee into your hands, hold for 5 seconds, and then you're going to hug your knee again, bring it back into your chest and relax for 10 seconds. So we're contracting that hip flexor to bring us deeper into the stretch. Okay, first rep coming up, you're going to drive your knee into your hands, drive your knee towards your chest for roughly 5 seconds, and then you're going to re-hug your knee and pull your knee back into your chest, try and get a little bit deeper into the stretch. It's a tough one this, you're going to feel your hip flexors working hard, especially in that shortened range. Make sure you're only pushing about 50 to 60% though, don't give it 100%. So squeeze 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax, bring that knee in a little bit closer. If you feel like you're getting a bit of a pinch in the hip, it's probably not your hip flexors, it's probably something to do with internal rotation. So we need to do more internal rotation work like we did earlier. Last one, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax, bring that knee in a little bit closer. Again, keep the head on the floor when you do it, just like that. I was just doing it so I could see the time. And then you're going to hold this last one for a little bit longer. Okay, exactly the same, but you're going to swap legs this time. Hug that knee for about 20 seconds, and then you're going to push against your hand for 5 seconds, and then relax for 10 seconds, 3 reps worth of it, and then we're going to move on to some calf and ankle work. Okay, after you've done your reps, we're going to retest again. We're going to sit in a squat and hopefully the hips are a bit looser now and this should be a little bit easier. Then we're going to get onto the final piece of the puzzle. We're going to stretch off the calves and ankles, work on your ankle mobility, and then do one final retest. Okay, so the first stretch we're going to do for the ankles and the calves. What I want you to do is take a moderate sized step like a lunge. You're going to keep your heel down on the front foot and then drive your knee over your toes. Pop both hands on the floor and then lean into your thigh with your upper body. So you're going to use the weight of your upper body to drive your knee over your toes. You could alternatively put a kettlebell or a plate or a dumbbell on your thigh and use the load of that weight to drive your knee over the toes instead. Just make sure you're trying to keep the heel down and you're trying to drive that knee over the toes as much as you can. So we're going to hold this for 30 seconds and then we're going to do the other side and we're going to do 2 sets of this. So quick side note, but it's worth knowing if you are someone who lifts, when it comes to passive and static stretching, the kind of stretching we're doing here where we just hold stretches for long periods of time, they have been shown to inhibit power production. So the last thing you want to do before a lifting session is inhibit power production if you're trying to get stronger and produce more power. So try not to do static stretching just before a lifting session. Do these routines outside of your lifting sessions if you can. When it comes to warming up for a lifting session, try and be a bit more dynamic. If you are someone like me who is tight in the ankles and the hips and you feel like you need a bit of static stretching to get into those deeper positions during the lifts, that's fine. Just make sure you warm up properly so you do some dynamic work. After that, you do some activation work, etc. Don't just hold passive stretches, especially for long periods of time, and then jump straight into your lifts because it's not an optimal way to warm up. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the stretch for the soleus. Now we're going to stretch off the gastrocnemius, the other calf muscle. So come onto your hands, come onto your feet, and then you're going to go toes down on one leg, doesn't matter which one you start with, and then push the heel down on the other foot and try and get that leg as straight as you can. And you're trying to feel a big stretch in your calf. You might feel a stretch around the back of the knee and in the hamstring a bit as well. We're going to do the same sets and reps. So we're going to do 30 seconds on each side twice, and then we're going to retest, and then we're done. This can get tough on the shoulders and the triceps because you are supporting some of your weight through your shoulders and triceps, so just an added benefit, you're doing some isometric strength work. If it does get too tough though, obviously have a bit of a rest in between sets. So if you need to do 30 seconds on one calf, 30 seconds on the other, have a bit of a rest and then go again, or you could even do 30 seconds on one, have a rest, 30 seconds on the other. You see where I'm going. Okay, we are coming towards the end on this last stretch for the gastrocnemius, and then we're going to do one final test, and hopefully this is the easiest, deepest, comfiest bodyweight squat you have ever sat in. Hopefully those hips and ankles are a bit looser now. Remember, improving flexibility takes time, frequency and intensity, just like getting stronger does. So if you don't feel that flexible, don't worry, just persist. You will get more flexible. You just have to do it enough and with enough intensity. Thank you, until next time. Hopefully your hips and ankles are a bit looser now and your squats are a bit deeper. Thank you so much again for watching this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it as I'm trying to grow this channel and give you guys and girls more fitness related content, whether it's mobility routines, general fitness advice or nutrition advice, etc. You let me know in the comments and I will deliver. Till next time, thanks again.